What is going on, everybody? We're here. We're live. This was not supposed to happen today. Originally, we were supposed to do this stream last week, but if you guys may have been paying attention, I was sick. I had to cancel all my streams, including this one, which sucks because I know usually we have a pretty understood schedule. I announced the stream before, a month before, when we're going to do it, and I couldn't make it. I couldn't make it because I was sick like a bitch. Huge pussy move for me. But 1 week later, here we are. As you guys know, if you tune into these streams, you often get a chance to listen to me fucking moan and groan and bitch and complain and bloviate about certain topics, whether by myself, whether on FNT, whether on Geeks and Gamers Daily. This stream's a little bit different. This stream, I am here. You do get my point of view on occasion, but you also get some other people, some of the big supporters, whether it's over on my YouTube channel, Patreon, locals, whatever it may be. And I know we've got some people that can't make it today because we did switch, and some people aren't feeling good. So hope I didn't get anybody sick just by fucking DMing. I don't know if maybe that's how sick I was. That's how contagious I was. And we'll see who joins throughout the stream. But we do have a couple people here. And I do see Trish Page in the chat. I see Darth Ghostface, who you'll be seeing soon, Lady Scythe, Bruce, Apollo Monopoly, Coco Noel, English Batchers, Jens, who is not going to be here. He's getting food soon, whatever that means. Getting food soon, so he's not going to be on the stream. Star Wars Marvel Purist might pop in a little bit later. John is here. Zachary Bloom. Dylan is here. With that being said, let's introduce who we do have here ready to go. We've got Darth Ghostface. What's up, Ghostface?
Yeah, nothing much, Brian, though. Since the first start of the new year, the first stream of the new year, I'd like to wish you a happy 2025, though it's been off to a rocky start, though.
It's been crazy. We were talking before the stream even started, some of us backstage. It's hard to even fathom that it was only January 1st when we had a terrorist attack in New Orleans. We had still a lot of unanswered questions about what happened to the guy in the Cybertruck outside of Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. That was less than 2 weeks ago, and it feels like months ago at this point with everything that's been in the news, including the fires, which I'm sure we'll talk a little about. We've also got Oracle of Doom 222. What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, hail to the Arcane Nation, and even though Ryan hates it, hail to the 199. How y'all doing?
I fucking hate the 199. I hate that name so much. So much. What do you got going on in the background there?
That's actually as in the ladies getting their asses kicked in Helldivers, which has been really hilarious to watch.
Sounds about right. Well, hey, good to have you here, man. Good to have you on camera. This is the first time you've been on camera?
No, it's the second time, actually, but the last time my camera was a little messed up, so I just, rather than try to mess with it, I just left it alone. So, but I'm here. Let's do it. Hail to the chaos of the new year.
It has been very chaotic indeed. And we've also got Grandmaster Chris, as always. What's up, Chris?
What's up, guys? Since this is technically the first stream that we've done since the holidays, I hope everyone had a good Christmas, a good Happy New Year. I certainly did. Also got to celebrate my 27th birthday that month, and already we are having a bit of a chaotic New Year, but it certainly brings it into perspective when you realize that 10 years ago is when The Force Awakens came out. I've been complaining about that movie for 10 years. But it's great to be here, and I'm also with you, Ryan. I hate the 199. I think it's super gay sounding. And I blame that idiot in the chat who coined it. Awesome.
I have only myself to blame.
Are you retarded?
Yeah, I'm the person that decided to mock it. I'm the person that decided to call it out. And as a result, we have an everlasting name, for people to watch G&G. So it's stuck. What can I do?
I got to admit, it's a lot of fun when you're in the 199 when you're watching CoverCast, man. It's a ball, man.
And you also got to blame Jeremy because he has a bad tendency to just run a joke into the ground.
Oh, no, he's fully on board. He's embraced that. I would not be surprised if that's like his first actual tattoo is the 199 on the G.I. Joe style, of course,
God, yeah. I need to get. Listen, I don't have any tattoos either. I've always wanted one, but I don't know what I want to get because I never know what I'm gonna fucking despise. 2 years later or whatever. Really, I'm just tough at making those types of decisions. But I guess I can always just get it removed if I don't like it. But maybe someday, maybe 2025 is the year that I finally get something done. But
I got mine for my children, so it was an easy one.
That's true. What if one of them turns out gay or something? Then you're like, oh god, gotta get that.
Well,
removed.
actually, one of them is gay, so I mean, there you go. What do you do?
Go. So you just start the process. You're like, hey, tell me, son, you're off the tattoo now. You're done.
There's nothing wrong with that. Just saying.
Yeah, I have to endure a butch lesbian daughter, so yeah, that's a complete leftist. It's a lot of fun, let me tell you.
Well, there you go. Maybe someday she'll find a nice guy and she'll change her tune. Who knows? What's
the term? Like plug lesbian until graduation.
There you go. We also have Sir Reefer is here. Sir Reefer, what's up, man?
Is he still on the shitter?
Nothing is up. At least he's not saying anything.
Hello, Sir Reefer, are you there?
He might have had too much reefer.
He probably just has the wrong input, maybe on Streamlabs or something.
Yeah,
there
wrong
it is.
microphone setting.
There you go. What's up, man? How you doing?
Oh, not too bad.
Are you excited for 2025 in the year of gaming?
I'm just gonna play old games. I'm not gonna buy anything new.
The one game that I'm actually looking forward to in February, now that Assassin's Creed is delayed, is probably Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which comes out in February.
I wasn't personally interested in the first one, so I don't really care about the second one.
Did you play it at all?
It's good. No, I didn't. It never really was one that pulled me to it.
Well, there you go.
The only one I'm looking forward to is that new Elden Ring game. That looks pretty damn interesting, I have to admit.
Yeah.
Is that like a sequel or is that a DLC?
It's neither. It's supposed to be a standalone game that actually adds more of like an arena combat element to it. So that should be pretty damn interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it's Elden Ring again. Like I didn't finish it. I enjoyed it, but I didn't finish it in time before I moved, and now I just don't feel like playing it right now. It's one of those that's like I have to be in the mood to play Souls.
Did you feel like it was
Elden
Dark
Ring.
Souls for normies? Is that why you don't respect it?
No, it's not that I don't respect it.
Okay.
I just didn't. I enjoyed it, but it's like it's one of those that I have to have a lot of time to just dump.
I will admit,
because I'll get really into it.
Elden Ring was the first Soulsborne game I ever played, and since I've started playing Dark Souls 3, and I can honestly see why they say it's for me, because that Dark Souls 3 is fucking unforgiving, man. Oh my god,
yes,
it's hard.
Dark Souls is a lot more unforgiving, which is also why people like Bloodborne a lot, because the movement mechanic had a much higher skill ceiling outside of timing.
It's the one Soulsborne game I've never played that I watched extensively on YouTube that I want, but I want it on PC. I will not play it on PlayStation.
I was gonna say you have to play it on PS4 right now. Hey, look, man, I got suckered into that plastic box for the first Spider-Man. I was like, oh my god, I have to have this.
Into what, PlayStation?
Yeah, on PS4. That and Horizon Zero Dawn, because I watched my entire first year at college. I watched my roommate play that. I'm like, oh my god, he's shooting robot dinosaurs with a bow and arrow. I have to fucking play this game.
I liked Horizon Zero Dawn a lot. Actually,
it was great.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a little cluttered on the map, but it wasn't a AC3. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was bought into the combat system, and obviously, did it get repetitive at times? Yes. But I was bought into it. I liked the combat system. I liked the world. I even liked a decent amount of like kind of the exploration discovery of these cultures and what had happened and what was specifically going on with Aloy's storyline.
Yes, that's what I liked about it. It was the most interesting premise that I'd heard of in my 19 years. I'm like, okay, someone's legitimately looking at this. What potential technology would we think about in this situation? AI regeneration, not a bad idea. Let's see where this goes.
Terrifying thought.
Yeah, I remember when I first saw the first gameplay trailer for Horizon back at, was it E3 when they first unveiled it? I remember like thinking, man, this looks really cool. It was like a brand new franchise, so that's a start. It's not a sequel or prequel. It's a brand new IP, and the concept looks really cool, especially like when they showed the gameplay of you fighting the Thunderjaw and like the way its body would just fall apart and you can like grab a gun off its back and start shooting it. I was like, man, this looks really cool. And I did enjoy how it's like an actual challenge. It's not a game that you're used to where you can just like gun down everybody. You have to bob and weave and use certain tactics.
That's okay. If you sniped in Call of Duty, you understand that inherently.
Yeah, you can't just camp in the back with a LMG with thermal scope.
There's a lot of, you know,
skill expression.
You really have to chunk. You really have to like chunk down these guys. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, there's no instant kills.
Right. You have to target this weakness and weak spot. You have to really use your trap thing to, you know, shock these guys. I enjoyed it. Now, I didn't really like these. I didn't play, I guess I should say. I didn't play the second one. And I think probably some of that was just so much of the backlash about Aloy and stuff. I just really didn't feel like I needed to even give it a shot. But yeah, I really enjoyed the first one. Now we're getting a movie out of it. Or a series or a movie. I don't remember.
I don't give a shit about that. I will say the second one is definitely on the list for me. Not to buy, but to play.
To play at some point.
Yeah. I'll play it at some point. But I wouldn't say it's high up there right now. There's a few others that I would like.
Yeah, I haven't played Forbidden West either, just because I don't know. I was kind of into it at first, but the hype really died down.
Never played Horizon Zero Dawn. It looked interesting, but just not my type of game.
And that's fair.
That's fair. Yeah,
I liked it because I felt there was high skill expression in a single player game. I'm like, oh, this is for you to see you getting better at the game. I like this.
The only enemy that I really hated in Horizon Zero Dawn was the Stormbird, the giant eagle thing. I felt that enemy was really cheap because he can just like fly away and go out of your line of fire and cover himself in a electric shield. I just thought,
the way you get through that is you have the triple shot with the boom burst arrows that do nothing but knock components off. You get rid of the shield generator and it's cake from there. You just got to hit the wings. That's the frustrating part. I played it a little bit anyway.
But yeah, so I don't know how we got started on that. I have pretty much always had a PC and a PlayStation. That's just kind of how I've done it. I've never, I guess I had the Xbox One, but I also had the PlayStation at the time. But I've never felt the need for an Xbox specifically.
I've never owned one.
I had a 360 back in the day because I really wanted to play Halo.
Yeah.
And now you see where Halo is now.
Yeah, when I was growing up, pretty much like I had a PlayStation and a GameCube. A lot of my buddies had Xboxes, so I just went over to their places and played Halo. That was the time that I played Halo when I was at buddies' houses.
Yeah, that's how I experienced Gears of War. Is I just go over to my friend's house and we just play it there. So yeah, same thing. But I've always been a PC, PlayStation purist.
The red ring on the 360 I swore off Xbox with that when those things kept going bad. I was like, fuck that.
Oh, did you hear in 2021 Microsoft figured out what it was?
No, what?
So it was overheating due to poor airflow issues would desolder I think it was a transistor on the power rail. And so you would have complete power delivery failure to a component.
Okay, now you have to ask yourself is that plausible, viable, type of technology failure that, just happens to occur, or is that
no?
Just saying, just throwing that out.
It's the solder they used.
That's
right?
strange,
the EU ruled that you couldn't use leaded solder, and unleaded solder is much more fragile. It's not flexible.
It's strange because I never got a red ring, and I had that Xbox for at least 8 years.
And it didn't happen to everyone.
It's hard to believe that it took them till 2021 to figure that out.
No, they just announced it.
Yeah, they had to fucking know. Like, because everything that was going wrong, it had to have all been tracked back to that transistor. So, yeah.
Well, it's just like when I first bought a Gen 1 PlayStation. I remember I was a kid. I saved all summer long $300. The best way I could play that thing was literally upside down. That's what you got with a Gen 1 PlayStation. It was a lot of fun back then, let me tell you.
Was it more fun than the way Assassin's Creed Shadows looks?
I don't know, man. I'd probably take the upside down PlayStation over that bullshit.
Just trying to like I can tell Ryan wants to talk about it, and I'm trying to transition into that.
Well, listen, there's some little clips that have come out that I think look really solid from it, combat wise. Now, a lot of it does feel like it was stolen directly from Ghost of Tsushima, not gonna lie. But, you know, I've seen some clips here and there of, you know, some of the parkour that looks, you know, a lot better than maybe that it's been in recent years. And you'd expect that with another generation of the game. But, yeah, Assassin's Creed been delayed once again. I can't believe they moved it out of Black History Month. I thought that was going to be a big selling point for them. But no, officially delayed until March 20th. Which happens to be the day that coincides with the 30th anniversary of the worst modern terrorist attack in Japan, not Japanese history, in Japan. So yeah, I guess those cultural consultants maybe didn't think about that one.
It's like releasing the Rings of Power on the anniversary of Tolkien's death.
Oh God,
you gotta love it, man. You gotta love it.
That speaks volumes about Amazon.
It is wild. I had almost forgotten that they did that. They did do that on the anniversary of Tolkien's death. I suppose subliminal messaging.
Oh, Gary had a good rant about that shit.
I don't think that this one was with like any malice intended. I think it's just another example of these people that they've hired to be their Japanese cultural consultants that have no idea what's going on or what they're doing. And just because something bad happened 30 years ago doesn't mean that now no one should ever fucking release any games. Of course not. That's ridiculous. But when you have a game that you've told everybody is such a big, oh, this is a celebration of Japanese culture, and we really want to do everything we can to honor Japan while taking characters who weren't really samurai and making them into full-fledged samurai and all these things. Like, you really don't, and you haven't the entire time.
It'd be one thing if it was like strike 1 or 2, but we're on like strike 6 or 7 at this point with this company. It's just like, how many more things can you possibly fuck up on? Come on.
Yeah, it's really hard to be excited about this game when Ubisoft is just coming off the heels of Star Wars Outlaws. Oh!
Yeah,
and right on cue, Pure shows up.
Right on cue. What's up, Purist?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. We were just talking about this Assassin's Creed Shadows getting delayed once again. I don't even know if it's to change shit or because it's not ready or if they just didn't want the competition. Because quite honestly, there's a lot of shit coming out in February that I think would have swamped or at least bit into the attention that Assassin's Creed Shadows would get.
Well, I don't know. Does that game get a lot of...
Oh, go ahead, man. My bad.
Oh yeah, my bad, dude. Does that game get a lot of online play usually too, or is it because I know mostly it's story based, right? Or is there a lot of players that play online?
Assassin's Creed is a single player series. They had a little bit of a stretch where they experimented with multiplayer, but for the most part, it's just a single player game. So of course, Ubisoft does everything in their power to make it not an offline game. Like, you need to sign into our account in order to play it. We're offering microtransactions. It can't be.
I was going to say, like Ryan's saying, that it's probably the volume of other games coming out. Because if it was like an online gameplay thing, then I would think maybe because Marvel Rivals, they want that to die down more, like for online play. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't played Assassin's Creed since like the second one, I think.
I mean, I don't blame you.
Like,
yeah, I stopped gaming about a decade ago, like for the most part. I'm about to fire it up again now, though, but we'll see.
I have played most of the main, Assassin's Creed games that they've put out. I didn't play Mirage, which is actually the most recent one, I think, because that was like came out a year or whatever after Assassin's Creed Valhalla. But they've progressively got less and less about Assassin's Creed and more about just kind of generic action, not even really RPG, but kind of ish RPG-ish.
That's the thing that's really irritated me about Assassin's Creed is ever since 3, they just have no idea where to take the story next. So now it's more about the setting and the location as opposed to the ever-growing story of the assassins and the Templars. Like,
yeah, once Desmond's story ended, you became a lot less invested on the other part of Assassin's Creed, which is out of the Animus, right? And I don't know. It's not like I loved all the Desmond stuff, or I couldn't wait to hop out of the Animus and explore more. I'm not going to say that, but it was interesting enough, and it kept you invested over several games about what exactly was going on. And then when his story ended, it was just, I don't know. I don't really care about all the stuff outside of the Animus anymore.
Yeah, I only played the first 2, but the one thing I will say about it is it was massively repetitive. I mean, you go to a town, you climb the highest point, you fly off into the thing, you fight all the stuff, you kill a few people, you go to the next town, you go up to the thing, you fly off of it, you kill a few people, repeat, rinse and repeat.
I quit playing after the first game for that reason.
The story of the first 2 was the only thing that actually kept me going and it kept me invested in it, because I really liked, the first character, and I like Enzio a lot in the second one. So, but if it weren't for the actual dialogue and the story, I'd have been done a long time ago. Because I've been like, this is fucking boring. You just do it over and over and over.
I'm with you. Like, if it was just that repetitive gameplay, it probably wouldn't be. It wouldn't be as successful. If it was just this repetitive gameplay set, maybe in a modern world, it wouldn't. But because they did a good job of taking things from the past and telling these kind of fictional stories within it, and linking in all these things that you know, or these people you've heard of, or this place that you know about, and like that's what really made it so interesting to me, at least. And I enjoyed being able to go to all these different, being able to go to America during the period of the Revolution. Being able to go to ancient Greece, being able to I enjoyed that shit. But for a lot of people that have been fans for a long time, their criticisms of the games as they become kind of more and more successful in terms of people buying them has been it's departed a lot from where it was originally supposed to be. But I don't know. Reefer, you're a big Assassin's Creed person, yes?
Yeah, I played them all because I like the idea of Christians coming out on top in that one. But it was one of those games that I really enjoyed and I played a lot. So I just played them, Got pissed off with them, but I liked the setting of 3. I liked 4. 4 was awesome because Edward's a great protagonist and everyone wants to be a pirate, and the ship combat was really good back then.
I hear really damn good things about that Black Flag. I've actually been really tempted to check that out.
I think Black Flag is probably the best in the series, just because
But it has got its own things, but yeah.
But it's also the one that changes everything about it, and it stops being Assassin's Creed once that starts.
Yeah, you're essentially half the game is spent on the high seas playing a pirate, and the other half is actually a real Assassin's Creed game with you sneaking around either the cities or the jungle trying to assassinate your target. And the
traversal becomes the game.
Yeah, so Black Flag is fucking awesome because the story is great, the pirate shit is great, the feeling of being on the high sea, the combat, the whaling, everything about it is awesome for that time period. But it departs from a lot of stuff we had traditionally seen. And also the main character himself doesn't actually give a fuck about this assassin Templar shit. He's literally just a fucking pirate.
Yeah.
So that almost kind of is a little bit meta for the way they went going forward in terms of not giving a fuck about the assassin.
His sidekick is the one who becomes the actual assassin while he retires to England to be with his family.
And then
Damn,
his
that
son
drunk
joins the
3PO,
Templars.
he's got that Vindicta music stuck in my head for like the third day, man.
What were you saying, Biggles?
I said, and then his son became a Templar, so he really didn't give a fuck about the assassins.
That is true. And I do think like that was one of the big missed opportunities with Rogue is that you weren't playing as Haytham, but they created a brand new character who followed Haytham around.
Wasn't he an assassin hunter though?
Yeah, he was. But the thing is, Haytham was also trained as an assassin who became a Templar.
I still think that what's the America one? 3? That's Creed 3, right? That opening is still one of the fucking coolest moments ever when you're doing all this shit and then you realize you're a fucking Templar.
Yeah. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. I still have like the fucking steel book or whatever cover for that, which is just sick. There was so much hype for that coming out because of the America setting.
Well, it's the most interesting time period of our history.
You know, for us, certainly.
For us, certainly.
I just loved hanging the redcoats. I spent hours and hours hanging
the rope dart. that was cool. Like you hanging from the branch of a tree, and you just like throw the rope dart, you pull back, and you just hang them there.
And they were all white.
Yeah.
So we don't have to worry about it's cultural sensitivity.
Y'all racist. Just saying.
Against other white people, against other white British people.
White on white crime.
Graph Web for 2. For fuck's sake, cancel Disney Plus.
Amen.
Thank you, Graph Web.
Can't cancel something that I never subscribed to in the first place, and I never will.
There you go.
It's funny. The day I was actually going to subscribe to Disney Plus, I wanted to catch up on The Mandalorian. Now, this is a long time ago. And the day I got home from work, I'm going to subscribe. I actually went on Ryan's channel because he just made a video about it. Gina Carano gets fired. I was like, well, that saved me some money right there.
Wow.
So you didn't have your kids force you to subscribe to it?
Like no, dude. My daughter's like growing and shit. So I literally was going to subscribe just to catch up on The Mandalorian, maybe watch, a few Marvel movies of the old school type. And then literally the day I came home from work, I went to, basically get on the computer. I turned Ryan's video on and I was like, yeah, well, fuck them. I ain't doing that now.
Well, I'm sure that Grogu movie is going to turn everything around.
I hope that movie fucking bombs.
I hope so too.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see how it does because I personally have no idea what the demand for a Mandalorian and Grogu movie is at the box office right now. I have no clue. So that's going to be very telling when that comes out. And if it does, $500 million, it's all going to depend on what the budget is. If they filmed it the same way they do the Mando stuff, maybe they keep the budget low. But yeah, everyone is going to be paying attention to that.
Where do you take the story from here? I mean, why? That movie is just totally unnecessary. There's nowhere to go with that story.
It's just going to be, to me, I think it's just going to be about setting up whatever big final culmination of Thrawn as the big bad with a lot of our other characters that we've been introduced to fighting against him in probably Dave Filoni's movie in several years.
Kind of a bastardized heir to the Empire.
Yes.
Yeah, but it'll be discount dollar store Thrawn. It won't be actual Thrawn.
Oh, 100%. I'm not arguing any different, but I think that's probably what this movie is going to set up is some sort of maybe investigating some other little Imperial sleeper cells, like whatever, these other people that they were in contact with. That's all I can think of.
The good news, if you count the retards that are calling Skeleton Crew a 7 out of 10 and combine them with the Wokalite audience, it's still not enough to make a difference on the box office numbers. So that's good news.
No, Skeleton Crew actually has worse ratings than the Acolyte.
Yeah, it didn't even make the top 10 original streaming chart on Nielsen.
No, but it's getting the Andor treatment. It's okay. It's not Star Wars, but it's good because it's decent. Like, Star Wars is epic and awesome. If it's not like a 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, you probably shouldn't be fucking making it.
And if Andor is so good, why didn't it become a cultural phenomenon like The Penguin did when DC is arguably in worse shape than Star Wars.
That's a fact.
Within 1 year, they had 4 flops.
Well, and there's a couple interesting things to talk about with Andor. One, it's virtually the only one of these shows that had an increase in ratings over time, as opposed to a massive drop-off and stay drop-off. Two, when it launched, it was going up against House of the Dragon and Rings of Power in the ratings. But for a lot of these things, like Acolyte had no competition. Skeleton Crew has no competition. To me, Skeleton Crew, it's one of the reasons I barely talked about it is because honestly, I feel like it's barely worth talking about. It very clearly, to me, was marketed as a show towards like not just kind of young audiences, but anybody can watch it, like kind of Star Wars always intended, but no, like kids. It looks like a kid show to me. And I can't just sit there and do fucking reviews and weekly whatevers for a kid show because that's what it is.
I think that's what everybody in the Star Wars community, for the most part, is like, no, we're not wasting our time reviewing this shit.
Yeah, but still, the Disney shows consume it, and they've been going crazy over that show for some reason. Especially, I've been having some suspicious over the kid characters like Neo. They make you think they need to take a seat with Chris Hansen.
I could just imagine Ryan flamethrowing this show, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, what am I going to do with this show? Am I going to fucking sit there and watch it and rip it the fuck apart when it's intended for like fucking 7-year-olds or something? Probably not.
And you would too. That would be glorious and hilarious to watch.
That was the fun thing about Wokoite. I was doing 2 reviews an episode because there was so much shit you could bring up, lore breaking on top of just how terrible the story was. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I still remember that bit in the EFAP reaction to the Acolyte finale, and when Plagueis showed up, and you can just hear Ryan going, "Go fuck yourself."
Yeah, yeah, because at least that is, I mean, that's geared towards adults, right? That's who that's for. So I had no problem sitting there ripping that shit apart. But yeah, I just cannot bring myself to waste my time for Skeleton Crew. Will I probably at some point see it and give my feedback? Yeah, probably. But it's not a surprise at all that it's not showing up on the ratings. I don't think it ever had a chance to. In the same way that, say, when people were giving good reviews to X-Men 97, but people were like, "Oh, look, it flopped. It didn't show up." It's like, bro, I don't know how you expected this to show up, as opposed to like a kids show, like an original kids show, whatever, on Disney Plus, Skeleton Crew. X-Men 97 was basically, it's an animated show for people that are my age that watched the original cartoon like 30 years ago. Like,
exactly. Yeah, that was the target,
that is
the target audience.
Yeah, so the fact that it didn't show up is not a surprise whatsoever, regardless of whether people thought it was good or not, because it never really had a chance to capture any audience like that.
No, because Marvel's destroyed their brand. Like Marvel's destroyed the Marvel brand. So yeah, like you're not going to lure in. Like kids aren't watching anime over Star Wars or Marvel now. That's just like the way that it is.
And now they're using X-Men 97 to hype up your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man cartoon.
From the same studio that brought you X-Men 97.
There's a big difference between all the Spider-Man characters and the Osborns than Morph. That's you know, it's a
you must be Peter Parker. Difference. You know, I'm something of a magical Negro myself.
You know, I'll give you all credit. You know, whoever watched The Lack of White, I give you credit, dude, because there is no way I could even. I mean, I was just watching y'all's reviews and I was cringing hard enough to almost break my teeth. So I mean, seriously, I mean that was some shit, dude. I've been watching Star Wars since I was like, 4 years old, 1977. So I'm old like Ryan doesn't ever want to be. So, yeah, I mean, and seeing what they have done to Star Wars is just unreal, man. This Lack of White, space, black, lesbian, witches, dude, what in the hell is going on with this shit?
And Star Wars is so bad that I went to buy a new phone the other day, like 3 days ago. And the guy that was selling me my phone was talking about how much he fucking hated Star Wars now. And I don't know if it's because I was wearing a Geeks and Gamers hoodie or if he was just mad at Star Wars for sucking ass. So it was one of the two.
I mean, I still love Star Wars. I mean,
yeah.
Hail to, you know, Theory Sabers, because I've purchased a couple of his. You know, I've got a collection of lightsabers. I got 6 scale figures from Star Wars. I love Star Wars since I was 4. But this garbage, no way, man. You can keep it.
You know what? People still, they see me with like a Darth Revan or Darth Bane shirt on. Like, I get real Star Wars fans that like hit me up all the time. They're like,
dude,
oh,
I
man,
just ordered a
those were the fucking
6-scale
days.
Revan from Sideshow, man. Hell yeah, dude. I mean, and I know me and Ryan will have this, you know, in common because I love like the KOTOR games, dude. That's probably my favorite Star Wars game next to like Jedi Outcast or Jedi Academy. But KOTOR, dude, I would love to see a movie like that, but not in the hands of what we have now, because they would just make him gay or bi or trans or some shit or all the above. Who knows?
That sounded good pre-2014 for sure, man. I would have been with you there. But yeah, once they quote-unquote decanonize the quote-unquote non-canon, yeah, I didn't want them to fuck with the old Republic.
Yeah, in 20 Revan non-binary, considering that like you can like choose the gender in the game. It's like it can be both.
Yeah, that's always been a lot of these freaks' arguments for it. It's like that is a game mechanic that is not a descriptor of his sexuality. There is a canon storyline for Knights of the Old Republic. There is a canon choice for Revan in terms of his look. There is a canon sexuality. There's a canon gender and sexuality and choices that he makes throughout the entire thing. Just because you can do all of these things in your freedom in your role-playing game does not mean that in the actual mainline story that's how it works. But yeah, that's one of the things that they could easily try to justify doing whatever they wanted with Revan, which would be ridiculous. But man, in 2012, when Disney announced that they were buying Star Wars, I was all for it. Because I thought to myself, man, we're going to get to see so many fucking movies. I'm going to get to see like Jaina and Jason in live action. Yep. I'm going to see these characters, these stories. I was fucking hyped as shit.
Mara Jade, bro.
Yeah, and then very slowly, it seemed like that was not the way when we started hearing about rumors for these characters' potential names and the roles they were going to play when they were looking at these castings. I was like, well, I mean, I guess that could be Jaina. I guess that could be, Jason, but I don't know. That really doesn't make sense. And then 2014 was the big one where they told us,
who could John Boyega play? Like,
no, instead we got Emo Ren.
Yeah, instead of Alpha Chad Jason Solo, we get his beta cuck clone Kylo Ren.
We've all talked about it since the first rumor. Like, you don't remake KOTOR, right? You remaster it. Sure, that's a great idea. But the game's known for the story, it's not. So why the fuck would you rewrite the story, And again, why would you buy a franchise when they have all these books and everything mapped out for you? And again, you don't have to 100% direct adapt. Now, the closer you get to direct adaptation, they tend to have the longest of the shelf lives, right? Look at Iron Man 1. But when you then deviate from that, it just doesn't make any sense. You have the roadmap, you stick within the confines. There's things the MCU did in the first 2 phases that were not 100% comic accurate, but most people were cool with it because they did it. They integrated it in a way that made sense and still stayed within the confines of the known universe.
Well, Marvel
and
specifically
had it right for the MCU. You almost have a little more like forgiveness for some of the decisions and choices they made because they didn't actually have rights to a lot of the characters for some of these stories. Like they couldn't use the X-Men. They couldn't use the Fantastic Four.
Exactly.
They couldn't use Spider-Man. They couldn't use a bunch of these very important characters in some of these storylines. They kind of made do without.
And that was one of the really cool things that the MCU did is they were able to take, let's be honest, they were able to take B-list characters like Iron Man, Cap, and Thor and elevate them into A-plus list characters on the same level as Spider-Man. And Star Wars could have had a chance to do that same thing to elevate characters from the EU to the same level as Luke, Han, and Leia, and they just chose not to. They thought they could do it with their own characters, and it completely failed, and they haven't been able to move on since. That's why we're still stuck in this era of in between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens with Skeleton Crew and whatever Ahsoka Season 2 comes out in 2027 or whenever it's coming out.
Well, Jon Favreau directed Iron Man, okay? He didn't write Iron Man, and the writers wrote Iron Man similar to the way John Byrne wrote Iron Man, because John Byrne, picked up Iron Man in the early 90s. It was one of the first comic runs I had collected, was the Dragon Seed Saga. But he did a retelling of the Iron Man origin, but he did it in a way where it was like proper quote unquote modernization, right? They weren't race changing and doing all this. They updated the Mandarin from being the Fu Manchu type character, right? They modernized it. Made it a different part of Asia, and they upgraded, kind of like they've done with Frank Castle Punisher, right? Originally it was Vietnam, then they moved him into the Gulf War, and then when you get to the Garth Ennis run, it's Afghanistan and whatnot. So that's the way you normalize and just change with the times versus changing the whole story and adding agendas and shit based off the new times.
Oh my God, you speak of a desecration of a character. What the hell they did to the Punisher, Frank Castle? Oh my God.
Oh, with the ninja, with the hand.
Oh my God, they gave him superpowers and all this bullshit. It's just like, listen here, man, guys. Frank Castle is perfect in one way. It's very similar to what I'm wearing, Hail the Ripperverse. All you need is a guy that's pissed off with guns. He goes out and he kills the bad guys, and we're done here. And that's the story. What is so hard about that?
That's problematic for the people running Marvel today. It's too white supremacist or whatever.
Well, they were self-aware. So when Joe Quesada came in and they did the Marvel Knights, right? A lot of the Marvel Knight stuff hit. The Punisher, actually, out of all of them, didn't, because they tried to do like a horror element, and then they reset and they took a step back, they pulled it, and a year later, that's when you got the Welcome Back Frank arc by Garth Ennis, which is a massively popular story arc. But they were more self-aware back then to change things up if it wasn't working.
Well, unfortunately, that's just too hard to get right. Like, how do we make a Blade movie where he kills vampires? It's too hard, man.
It has to be all about the women in his life.
Dude, I am not gonna lie. My favorite part of the Deadpool Wolverine movie, and I got in trouble from the woman that you've seen in the background moving back and forth here. There's only one Blade. He came out, I lost my shit in the theater, dude. I couldn't help it, man. I was like, "Fuck yeah, Blade!" And she's like, "Shut up!" I'm like, "I'm sorry."
So, Oracle, you're like my age, you're probably a little older than I am. So, what would you have thought if instead of this TVA bullshit and tying into the MCU, how do you think Deadpool 3 would have done if Omega Red would have been your villain versus Wolverine and Deadpool?
Dude, Omega Red, that would have been some badass shit.
Wouldn't that have brought people out of the fucking woodworks that had kind of given up on the MCU? Because that's like high T, all different Weapon X type characters just going at it.
Dude, the graphics alone from that, dude, would have given most Marvel fans a hard on, dude. I mean, seriously. Dude,
and I'm not talking the Omega Red from Deadpool 2, guys. We're talking about comic book accurate badass Omega Red.
Yeah, we're talking Mr. Tendrils and Death Aura and just nightmare Soviet badass, dude, in the comic world at least.
Not the fat Australian kid from Deadpool 2.
Yeah, well, that's Fire Fist. That's a redhead. That's more ginger side. Fire Fist was actually a redheaded white dude.
Well, what is with that ginger side stuff, man? I've never understood this whole thing.
That's why I keep saying, like, all you Star Wars fans who want Mara Jade, you don't want Mara Jade in there, because if she is, Dave Filoni's gonna turn her into a black woman.
They may cast Will Smith as Cal Kestis. Be careful.
It wouldn't
keep my wife's name at your fucking mouth.
It wouldn't matter if Mara Jade was well casted. It's Dave Filoni. Right? Like, it doesn't matter if you had the most perfect casting for her. It truly doesn't matter. Dave Filoni's fucking awful.
Yeah, she'll probably end up fucking a wolf or something.
Yeah, and even if they do something similar to what we saw in Legacy of the Force, where like she dies at the hands of a spoiler alert for anyone.
Yeah, spoiler. Yeah. I mean, it's like fucking.
But the way she dies at the hands of Jason, like if they were to do that in the canon version, where she dies at the hands of Kylo, how much of a pussy would that make Mara look? Because this is the same Kylo Ren who lost to Rey, who never held a lightsaber in her life. In
the first movie that we see him too. I mean, it's just like, are you serious?
And this is the same Rey who, like a day ago, said, "Luke Skywalker, I thought he was a myth," and in the same movie said, "You'll never be as strong as Darth Vader." What? What are you talking about? Just a day ago, you thought this was all myth. Oh my god, I hate The Force Awakens.
Because she was able to absorb all the fucking information with that Force download shit, so she realized what he was thinking as well about living up to Darth Vader. That would be the explanation for that ridiculous shit.
Like Trinity from the Matrix downloading how to pilot a helicopter.
And that was that in the TFA novelization or was the TLJ one, right? Like they did it retroactively, right? In
I believe it was in the novelization for The Last Jedi is when they put an explanation of, I forget exactly what the technique, but we call it forced download because that's effectively what it was. That's the explanation for how Rey learned to do all these things. Just
like they retroactively had to explain the dyad and the secrets of fake Book of Sith book that they released to try to validate, the shit of Episode 9.
Yeah,
which that's one of the reasons why I hate Filoni and his influence on Star Wars is he's now created this mindset of balancing the Force is a dyad. There has to be an equal amount of good and bad in the galaxy, and as we saw a few days ago with that EFAP highlights reel of that guy trying to explain balance, it makes no freaking sense. Because if balance is a scale, why don't we apply that to the real world? Then we made a mistake killing Hitler because now there's not as many Axis powers as there are Allied powers. It's stupid. It's always been the explanation that the dark side creates imbalance.
That's I mean, I feel like I've had that discussion and argument a million different times over the course of the last 5 years. And yeah, it's very much like an Eastern use of the word balance, which doesn't mean like balancing of scales. It's talking about being able to like clear your mind, like that type of like calm, right? Without any chaos type of balance. Like in like oneself, not meaning you have an equal amount of dark and light going on, but instead clearing yourself of any of that chaos, of any of that corruption.
I always thought Yoda said it the best in Empire, bro. I mean, literally, he told Luke exactly what the distinction between the good. I mean, when you're calm, at peace, balanced. But what is the difference between the dark side? It's quicker, easier, and more seductive.
Exactly. Yep.
Also, hi, Tim.
What's up?
Hey, can you guys hear me okay? I'm on my phone outside.
No, you're good.
You sound good, brother. You sound good.
Okay, great. Yeah, I heard the dog whistle when you guys mentioned Dave Filoni, and I'm like, I'm working out here. I got to hop on for a minute. But the other night, we're streaming, and we're talking about random comics and shit. Me and Justin brought up one of my favorite story arcs in the original Marvel comic, Star Wars. And then he said that was on Clone Wars. So once again, years later, we're discovering Dave Filoni ripped something off from Expanded Universe because he is completely unoriginal, and when he does it, he bastardizes it and does not do justice to the original. So there's no hope for this fake Thrawn in Disney Star Wars. It's going to be awful. It already has been awful.
Favreau's going to save it now, Tim. Come on, Favreau. It's the disciples of Favreau.
We got to move on to the next guy. Everyone step to the left, right?
Hey, Tim, have you ever seen the video by, I think his name is Captain Fordo, called, like, Why the Clone Wars Doesn't Fit into Legends?
Yeah, I think I saw that years ago.
Yeah, I saw that years ago, too.
Yeah, like when I first kind of came around, yeah.
He goes into a very detailed analysis of, like, everything TCW contradicts, and if we were to include it, all the things we have to get rid of from all the different eras, like how they retcon the Night Sisters, how they retcon the Mandalorians. It just goes on and on and on.
Well, that's why I call it the thought bomb of the EU, because it literally destroys and wipes out like massive swaths of the expanded universe continuity.
And even the like all of the Clone Wars comics stuff that, you know, some people love them, some people don't, whatever. But there's a lot of Clone Wars comic arcs that, I mean, you could tell, you could go like kind of month by month through the Clone Wars and how it progressed, and we knew this battle, this battle, this battle, this battle. That completely gets thrown
Battle
out
of Abim was the really good one.
Yeah.
Not to mention, Clone Wars committed one of the worst things you could do to a franchise, which is to make death irrelevant when they brought Darth Maul back. Now, like, what's to stop Count Dooku from like sewing his head back onto his body and going off against Darth Vader for revenge, only to die in the end anyway, which is essentially what Maul does. He goes for revenge against Obi-Wan to die again anyway.
And even with that, even with bringing Maul back, Filoni got called out by George Lucas's daughter for stealing elements of that from the expanded universe.
Yep.
Because this is never intended to be part of mainline continuity. It's literally like a outrageous alternate reality Star Wars Infinities thing where Darth Maul actually survives and he has fucking robot legs.
So is Darth Maul kind of like a take on Darth Sion, basically?
No,
I know
just in a sense that the bastard can't die. Because I mean, I'm sure you've all played KOTOR too.
In Dave Filoni's mind, maybe.
It may have been a ripoff from that. There's a difference, and it's a difference when it's done in video games and things like that than when in live action. It would be one thing if we saw Darth Sion cut in half somewhere, right? Like that would be different. It would feel different if we saw Darth Sion get cut in half, laying in two sections on the ground, and then crawl back together, and you had to fight him again.
You see, that's the problem I've had with Maul the whole time. It's like, okay, wait a minute. He's cut in half. He falls down his shaft, and then
survives for a decade, right? Survives for a decade like that until his brother decides to go find him on that garbage planet.
And they didn't even try to.
So different than
they didn't even try to say.
Go ahead.
They didn't even try to say it was another body. Like he transferred his spirit, like Palpatine did in Dark Empire. It was just, it's the same body. It's alive with chicken legs. Okay.
But how did he get the legs? I mean, what did he just crawl and the junk just like attached to him, or like he had a psychic force thing that gave him cybernetics? I mean, I'm trying to figure it out.
Space Wizards intended for children.
It's cartoon logic.
Yeah. But that to me is why it's different for Sion versus Maul. Because it's basically, it's truly like a video game mechanic where you're like getting this guy's health bar low, and he fucking gets angry and fuels back up. And yes, he's covered in scars and things like this that imply he's kind of being held together, almost by his rage. But you never see him. You never see his head chopped off.
No.
You never see him cut in half and still able to fucking do something. It's truly like a game mechanic in that way. So I feel like there's a difference between what we see in KOTOR 2 with Darth Sion than what we see with Darth Maul.
Yeah, it's kind of like how you never see Wolverine get like dismembered or anything. He always just like gets shot or cut up, but he never gets sliced apart.
He did get blasted in the face by Havoc once. That literally burned him into the skull, and somehow he still, survived that. So.
That was like late 80s, wasn't it?
That's like adamantium, though. That's why he can't be like Deadpool. You can sever off body parts and they'll grow back.
Wolverine's gone through some shit you can't believe in the comic books, and he's still managed to crawl his ass out of the grave and regenerate. And there we go. So I mean, it's fantasy lore. I get that, but I mean, there has to be some plausible reality to it.
Well, in the 80s and early 90s, he was a little more realistic, and he wasn't actually the center. But obviously, once X-Men 92 came out, then he was a fan favorite.
I gotta say, I love that bit in Deadpool 2 where he's got like the little baby legs. He's like crossing them like Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct. And then when he starts walking, the guy's like, "Oh, look at him, he's doing it. Our little buddy can walk."
Well, and there's 3 movies you can universally agree fucking awesome. All the Deadpools are really good. I love them.
I'm not a big fan of 2. I fucking hate that fat kid.
Fully a fist. Tell us how you really feel, Ryan.
Here's my take on 3. I think that 3, if they did some of the things that they did in that movie in a different MCU movie, I feel like we'd fucking go like hate a lot of things about it. But it almost like you judge it in a different way because it is a Deadpool movie, because they are fucking self-deprecating, because they are mocking in some ways. Like what happened to Johnny Storm in Deadpool 3 is almost exactly the same thing that we saw happen to
Reed Richards,
Mr. Fantastic in Multiverse of Madness.
I literally thought they were poking at that.
But it feels different though, right? It feels different because the point of that scene is comedic, and the point of these Deadpool movies is fucking comedic. Whereas it wasn't supposed to be comedic in that. It was supposed to put Wanda over. So I criticized that one. I fucking laughed at the other one. But overall, I think Deadpool 3 is like fine. It was a lot of fun though. And interesting to see all these characters coming back. I wish they had a little bit more purpose to their coming back. I love seeing Blade again. I love seeing Wesley Snipes as Blade. I like the Channing Tatum Gambit thing that they did.
That's a meme, total meme and shit, right? Because everybody, the whole thing was Channing Tatum can't do a Cajun accent, so they they went overboard on it on purpose. That was fucking great.
Which is exactly comic accurate too, and people lost their minds, and I thought it was hilarious, dude. Because Gambit's always getting shit in the comics for nobody can understand what the hell he's saying. Wolverine especially makes fun of him. So I mean, there you go.
Yeah, I think the story in Deadpool 2 is better than number 3 for sure. Like 3 is fun, but the story. But I don't like the subversion on X-Force because when I'm watching Deadpool 2 at the time, I'm thinking, hey, we're gonna get fucking like rated R X-Force coming, you know? And then they fucking like off the whole fucking team.
I hated that part. That's the only part in that movie I can't stand. Ugh.
But I didn't mind Brolin. Cable was all right. Like, I mean, I think Brolin does a good job. I didn't like the jokey joke shit with Cable, like, because he usually doesn't do. Like, he would have just like hard been talking shit to Deadpool, like they do in the Cable and Deadpool comic that they did together and shit. But you know, I didn't mind it. You know, a little more telekinesis on his end would have been cool, but it is what it is.
Best on-screen juggernaut thus far, though. Damn, Kane Marco was awesome in that second Deadpool.
And I didn't mind Zazie Beetz as Domino. I mean, I do mind that, you know, she was race swapped and all that shit, but whatever. I thought her playing the character was fine. Wasn't that big of a deal. So
that's one of the few race swaps I didn't honestly really even notice.
For me, it's just comics as a visual medium. You should stick to what it looks like in the books and stuff because that's what it is, you know? I mean,
it's not that. Unlike adapting novels and things like that, you literally have a carbon copy of what these characters are supposed to look like.
Exactly.
You know, and you shouldn't have descriptions and things like that in books, but over half of what you're getting from a comic book is through the visuals of it, as opposed to when you're reading a story and you're inventing the own things in your head.
If you watch a Psylocke movie, you don't expect her in a snow jacket and fucking jeans. You know, it's just what it is. So,
even in novels that aren't comics, like there will be some authors who go into great detail about what their characters look, and I think you can attest to this, Ryan. Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling goes into great detail about how all the characters look. Like the Weasleys are all redheads. Harry has glasses. Snape is nappy, and he looks like a freaking weirdo.
Not nappy. Don't say nappy because that'll make you think he's black. He's not nappy.
Oh, no!
That greasy hair.
I fell for it. I fell for it.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that sometimes people don't understand is a lot of it's going to depend on who you're writing and where. So guess what? The only characters that are black are like literally described as being black, because everyone else is assumed to be white because this is a story that was written in the UK in the 90s, right? Where that is the normal. That is the overwhelming normal. So for even some characters that maybe don't have specific descriptions of their skin color, well, it's because all of these people are assumed to be white. But these very characters, you say there's no description to their skin color. Well, it's weird that they turned pink when they blushed and got embarrassed. Right? Why'd they turn pink? Because they're not fucking black, right? Because they're white.
I heard a rumor recently. Now, perhaps it's just a rumor, but I seen something on the wonderful wide web of knowledge we call the internet that said that they're remaking The Matrix, and that Will Smith was going to be Neo.
I don't think so. Will Smith, I believe, I think there was a report a long time ago that Will Smith was offered the role of Neo at one point. Like a long time ago, obviously, but he turned it down. But I don't know if that's 100% true or not, but I haven't heard anything about them remaking the Matrix movies.
Please, God, no, please. I mean,
the last
fourth one was
so
already
bad.
bad
I don't
enough.
think we're going to see something like that.
Oh, that fourth one was god awful.
Back for a fourth one.
God, it's almost easy to forget that came out. Real quick, let me get through some of these. Ghost Silver for $5. Thank you very much. £5. Ghost Silver. We've also got Health Minister of Belgium for 5. Mike Zero has so little Star Wars to cover. He's now doing videos on Joy Reid from MSNPC. Mike Zero's
NPC
a
news.
worthless human being.
Like that one time he tried to make everyone think that like Ryan Reynolds cut out She-Hulk.
A lot of people believed it and ran with that story. A lot of people.
How can you guys say that? Mike Zero is one of the greatest news report. I can't even do it with a straight face.
He has a dartboard in his background, guys. He's an artiste.
Mike Zero, the grifter.
SBZ for 2. May the Father of Understanding guide us. That's the fucking Templars, right?
Yeah, that's the Templars.
Yeah.
Where assassins are like, nothing is true, everything is permitted.
That's right. Malcolm Tucker with 5 gifted memberships. Thank you very much, Malcolm. Shout out. And then, as Mike Zero gets brought up, his source comes forward for $10. Disney Star Wars will give Kip Duran a rainbow lightsaber.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. And then
Kip Duran, criminally underutilized in the Star Wars expanded universe.
And the best part is
big time.
He'll get his rainbow lightsaber after purifying a bleeded crystal like Ahsoka did. And like the meta will be like, he's so much better now that he's part of the rainbow community.
That's one thing Matt Wilkins and Justin and I need to talk about when we do the Dark Tide stream on Justin's channel. Like Kip Duran started out in NGO pretty strong and he just kind of like faded away. I'd say by book 6 or 7, and he's barely mentioned.
Well, he has some things to do, but his purpose in NJO at the beginning is to be the counter to Luke's methods, right?
Yep.
Like truly to be an antagonist from within side towards Luke, because Kip wants to go out there, wants to be aggressive, wants to punch people in the face, wants to control things, feels like we as the Jedi, we have a lot of power. We should be kind of telling these people what to do and how to do it. Who cares if they didn't strike first? They're going to attack us. Whereas Luke is so much more hesitant, and he's worried that any type of aggression could lead his students down the path of the dark side. And obviously that kind of does blow up in Kip's, like he loses his entire dozen and his apprentice, and sends him down this path where he's contemplating if these are the right things or not. He has his little thing with Jaina later on, about halfway through, which is just kind of strange.
Where she starts turning to the dark side and he has to pull her back, which acts as like a nice little culmination to the
dark journey,
where he was possessed by Exar Kun.
Yeah, I would say about that point, which is like halfway through, that's kind of when Kip, we don't see as much from Kip after that.
Yeah, definitely.
Kip's a fucking badass, man. Kip, we when we did the part 2 of Vector Prime, I took a bunch of Top Gun clips, like when the plane goes out of control with Goose and shit, because like that happens like to a degree, right, in space with Kip when he's trying to take on the, I can't remember the name of those fucking the bugs.
Coral skippers.
Yeah, no, not the coral skipper. It's those creatures that eat through the hull and shit. But he's literally doing all that while he almost loses his saber, while he's holding on to have to crawl back to the cockpit, like in the middle of like deep space. It's just badass stuff, dude. Anyone reviewing Vector Prime that doesn't mention Kip or any of that stuff, I don't know what abridged book they read, but you're missing out on some good shit.
Not pointing any fingers whatsoever. Not at all.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, and after that, after NJO, we get a little bit of Kip in. We get a little bit of Kip in the Swarm War, trilogy. We get a little bit of Kip in Legacy of the Force, and a little bit of Kip in Fate of the Jedi.
One of the ones in Legacy that take on Kite. It wasn't Kip, right? It was Corrin.
It was Kyle Katarn, I think.
It was Kyle Katarn with Valentorn and a couple other people.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I couldn't remember which main character it was, but yeah, so it was Kyle Katarn.
I think
that reminded me so much, and I think they intended this for the Palpatine confrontation with Mace and them, right? That's what I think they were channeling there in that scene. It was freaking awesome.
Yep.
That was one of the greatest characters ever made, and the expanded universe was Kyle Katarn. God, he was a good character.
Oh, you mean
Yeah, and of course
Generoso?
you're referring to the real Kyle Katarn and not fake Kyle Katarn. that
No,
Disney
no.
show.
No. I mean,
Not the
you know what I
Kyle
mean.
Katarn who
And
watches
Oracle,
the-
you mentioned the Jedi Knight games. Those are in my top, like those, the KOTOR games, Revenge of the
yeah.
Sith
Oh,
game,
yeah.
and Battlefront 2, fucking 2005, bro. Galactic
was a great game.
Conquest or whatever it is. That's like one of the best game modes ever that they've like never copied in any other game ever, like to the degree of it, the way that it was in that game. It was just awesome.
I've played a lot of multiplayer games, dude, but I don't think I've ever logged more hours than I did playing that damn Jedi Outcast multiplayer. I mean, literally, we were on that for days at a fucking time, dude.
That's
I mean,
real saber combat.
for real, dude. You just be waiting in line. My turn next. I'm gonna kill that bastard that killed me, dude. It was great, dude.
None of this
You just-
Kyle Kestis bullshit. Yeah.
Nah, dude. I like, Jedi Fallen Order, and I like Survivor, dude. They're great for just, the games. I like the character Cal Kestis. I admit it. He's, he grows on you.
because he's white.
No. but
That game you talking
Look,
about
man,
repetitive. You were talking
Look,
about
man, I
repetitive
can give
games
Cal
earlier.
Kestis
I
a
have to
mullet and a
say-
Fu
I have to say
Manchu.
Brian on that because I am his diversity over here, being that I am the half, black person over here. I got him covered. So we're good. ESP, just let everybody know.
Exactly.
Very
That's why,
important.
that's why we bring him on the channel.
Absolutely.
I think that the Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, I think the combat is now I played a lot more Fallen Order than I did a Survivor, and Survivor they switched things up, including the ability to, lightsaber one hand blast in the other, things like that. To me, the combat always felt smooth, right? And kind of cool looking and things like that. But Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy, to me, I don't think you're ever gonna match the capability of what you were able to do with a lightsaber in your hand, all the different moves, the different ways you could utilize it. Like you could be very specific about what you were trying to do with a lightsaber, which I don't think we've ever seen that matched in any other game, whether it's Force Unleashed, whether it's the new ones like Jedi Survivor. It's nothing like that.
Especially
and
in
also
Outcast where you could jump and do that finish, like where you jump over and swing under him and just nail him and do that would piss people off. I
Yeah,
love
and
it.
also the severity of getting hit with a lightsaber, like that
Yeah,
fucking matters
flying.
in those games. Like if you hit someone with a lightsaber, they're fucking dead. Basically, if you get hit with a lightsaber, you're fucking dead. You can take little nicks here and there, but as opposed to what we see, there's basically like glowing baseball bats basically in so many of these games. And even going back beyond to something like, Revenge of the Sith or whatever, where it's like, yeah, you have to hit this guy a million fucking times for him to die. It truly felt like you were fighting with a lightsaber in Outcast for the most part.
Unlike in Disney Star Wars, where you can get stabbed in the torso for a lightsaber and live, unlike what happened with Qui-Gon and Jinn in The Phantom Menace.
And what's funny is Sabine gets stabbed with a lightsaber and she's fine, but Trinity gets stabbed with a knife and she dies in the Acolyte.
Well, knives are way more dangerous than lightsabers. Lightsabers are just toys, and a knife is actually sharp.
Exactly.
By the way, going back to what we were saying about Kyle Katarn, I find it funny how that the fake news Kyle Katarn, he said that he watched the first episode of The Acolyte 4 times, and yet on his 4th viewing, he's still reacting as if he watched it for the first time.
Oh yeah, fake Kyle Katarn is a bad liar, very bad one.
I don't like any of these people who basically that's all they do. They live and breathe on a loving Disney Star Wars or whatever. I think most of them are being fake as fuck. But it is what it is. None of them are relevant. Like
Exactly.
None of them are fucking relevant. None of them fucking make any impact. None of them do anything. So quite frankly, I don't give 2 fucks. And the reason that they're not relevant is in large part, 1, because of them, but 2, because what they're talking about isn't very relevant anymore. If Disney Star Wars was in a great place, I think a lot of these people making the positive content about it would be actually doing really well. Like they'd be getting really good numbers, but they're not, because the vast majority of people, they can't tune into that and like be realistic.
And
Yeah, unless they have to use bots to buy fake subscribers for their channel and buy fake views, like what Jacob Suggs does with his Lightspeed channel.
And we see the same.
I don't know about any of these retards.
And we see the same thing with Rings of Power. It's like all the shills that were just like praising the loving crap out of it. They're not relevant anymore because everyone knows that Rings of Power is terrible, and the videos about it that get more views are the ones who make fun of it, because that's just the way it works. Like if something is bad and everyone knows it's bad, and you go out of your way to defend it, everyone's going to be like, "You're full of it, homie."
Yeah, it's like, look, if I had a channel when The Force Awakens came out, which I obviously didn't, but I had been making videos about how fucking shit I thought it was, I can guarantee you those videos would not have been well received, because regardless of how strong some individuals may have felt, the vast majority of people were fucking eating that shit up at the time. They just were. I personally felt like they were overlooking a lot, or they were kind of hypnotized by this or that. But the vast majority of people went to Force Awakens and they came out excited for what was next. Not me, but if I had made videos about that, I don't think those videos would have done very good. I think those videos would have done really, really shitty actually, and probably got ratioed because I wouldn't have had a lot of people agreeing with me.
And all those people confused. And all those people who praised The Force Awakens back in the day, what's their tune about that movie now?
I still like it. I'm glad Han Solo died. I don't like him.
I'm ashamed to say I was one of the many people who got sucked into Disney Star Wars with The Force Awakens, but after seeing how awful the next two films of the Disney trilogy that followed, that movie hasn't aged well now. There's no point in watching it anymore now.
I just came out really confused.
It's easy to get caught up in this. Like, Disney buys Star Wars. We get these huge announcements, right, that these fucking movies are coming out. It's a massive event. All the merchandise, all the fucking marketing, everything about Star Wars being back. And then it goes on. It has a massive opening weekend over the holidays. Everyone wanted to be a part of it. And so I get that it can be easy to get sucked up in those things. And I can see why a lot of people would go in, especially if you saw it in the theater and you had a fucking crazy crowd that a lot of them were excited and clapping or whatever. It can be easy to get caught up in things like that and maybe not really realize until later the things they were setting up or their lack of setting up.
I don't know, man.
Universe.
For
me, I went in there very jaded and biased. Like I was very biased against Disney Star Wars when I went there, and I don't know if they could have done anything with what they had done, with what they had announced, with decanonizing the expanded universe, with the people they had announced. I don't know if there's anything that movie could have been or done that could have made me like it. But I tried to give it a shot, and I didn't like it.
If they could have stayed true to
expectation of the lightsaber combat from episode 1, what I saw in that movie elevated the standard of what could be done on screen when it comes to absolute combat. That fight between Obi-Wan and Maul, that is the best 35 seconds in Star Wars lightsaber combat I think we will ever see. So when I went in there, I was just like, oh, well, okay, they got better graphics. They got all these people. Let's see some real lightsaber combat. And what I saw in Force Awakens was some of the most disappointing bullshit I have ever seen. Yeah, and it got worse.
Especially the way how like most of Rey's moves against Kylo are just like trying to stab him.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
In terms of getting caught up in it, you got to remember people were probably thinking, geez, just a few years ago they bought Marvel, and look what Marvel's doing with all these movies and shit, right? Yeah. So people definitely at the time were really excited about, yay, someone's going to do something because George hasn't gotten off his ass with that television show that he talked about what, 6 years? Since 2006. So, yeah, whatever it was. I think it was Underworld, yeah. I don't know if that ever came out as official or not, but it was a strong rumor as the title.
And that first Avengers movie that now that you mention it, Tim, that they just got off of buying Marvel and Marvel was on a roll. I still remember the day when I went to go see the first Avengers movie in theaters, and that was like one of the most awesome movie experiences ever. And it's a movie that holds up because I bought it on Blu-ray and I watched the ever-loving crap out of that movie, and I still enjoy it because it's a movie that like it was made by fans for fans. And say what you will about Joss Whedon, but you can tell he was a fan of the comics and he made it for fans of the comics, and it worked out insanely well. Even I was slightly surprised about how well Avengers turned out, because phase one, movies are good. I really like the movies, but they weren't really that successful. If you really think about it, the first Avengers only made like $300 million at the box office.
Wait, say what? The first Avengers?
No, Captain America, first Avenger,
sorry.
that movie. It only made like $300 million.
Well, that's because these characters were finally getting introduced properly. Like they were building up the MCU. Again, it's like that's kind of expected. Plus, we're dealing with real money, back then, not Bidenomics inflation numbers.
Where it was like,
and then they also had smaller budgets and whatnot too, right? So, but yeah, it took it a little while to get off the ground. But they also had good writing and good directors. And Kevin Feige, in my opinion, is Dave Filoni 2.0. I know you can give him some success and all that, but at the end of the day, it was the creative team and all the people. And they've even admitted we threw shit on the wall and saw what stuck. Like they didn't have the whole Infinity. Yeah, they showed Thanos at the end of the freaking Avengers 1, but they didn't have it completely mapped out. They kind of did paint by numbers and got lucky, in my opinion. But then what happened when they started getting rid of actual writers and actual directors, it started going down the drain. And then they started injecting a lot of the MCU shit. I would say with Iron Man 3, that's where that actually starts. And then the subversion, and it all fucking starts on a downward decline. Obviously, the Russo brothers were big fans of the Infinity Gauntlet saga, Infinity War, and all those arcs, and that's why the Infinity War movie was good, but it did kind of start getting worse. And then they also tried to hijack the success of the first Guardians movie and make everything's Guardians of the Galaxy instead of like letting that be its own thing and keeping like some seriousness. Like the X-Men movies had jokes, and sure, the X-Men universe isn't the best, but at least the humor was more like adult, kind of like the first phase of the MCU. They respected the audience.
Avengers worked so well because they took their time introducing these characters. Even if they didn't have their own solo movie, Black Widow got her introduction in Iron Man 2, things like that.
And Hawkeye had a cameo in Thor.
Exactly. Hawkeye was introduced in the first Thor movie. So they took their time introducing these characters. All the characters had their own way of speaking. They had their own roles. They had their own senses of humor. Captain America's sense of humor is based on the fact that he's like a fucking good old American boy from the 1940s, right? So the way he perceives things aren't necessarily the same. Obviously, we know Tony Stark is this snarky, wisecracking fucking asshole. Thor isn't funny because he's cracking jokes like Guardians of the Galaxy. Thor is funny because he's lived for thousands of fucking years and has no idea what any of these references are. Like, that's where Thor's humor comes in.
Monkeys.
And they work so well together. You also have to remember the first Avengers movie, it may have been distributed by Disney if the sale went through at that point, but it was made by Paramount.
Like all of phase one.
Paramount, the logo's right at the beginning.
Yeah, the logo's from the beginning because it was made by them, even if officially Disney the sale had gone through at that point or not.
And Pierce made a good point about Feige, because if you remember, Dave Filoni at that crappy women's conference made a quote about female leads in Star Wars. Oh my gosh, how unfair. Well, Feige essentially had his own version when he said, we're going to have more female superheroes than we're going to have male superheroes. And that's
and it doesn't matter if Nate Moore suggested race swaps and sexuality swaps with the Eternals. You let it fucking go. So that's on you. Like, you are Nate Moore's boss, right? And then it was his idea to say, Doctor Strange being a white man shouldn't be in WandaVision. Like, there's plenty of decisions that Feige could have made. And let's be real here. Marvel was carrying Hollywood on their back. You think if Feige would have walked in like the end of phase 3 and said, hey, this girl power shit, I can't do it. I'm gonna fucking quit. You think they would have got rid of him? I fucking highly doubt it. I think he had enough pull at that time because of the results that the studio probably would have listened and just,
And it was because they were reactionary due to the success of Wonder Woman. They saw the success of Wonder Woman, and now it's like, well, shit, we need our own version of Wonder Woman, and that's how we end up with Captain Marvel.
Yeah, that should have been either an Adam Warlock or a Silver Surfer movie.
Yeah, if you want to talk about how not everything was planned out, like they would leave little breadcrumbs and do things, but then go their own way. Like there's a reason that Adam Warlock was literally the teaser for first two Guardians movies, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Because the broken cocoon is in the end of the first Guardians, right? Your little fucking scene with Howard the Duck or whatever. Like you have the broken Adam Warlock cocoon in the background of that.
Yep.
And then you also have a completely different introduction of the cocoon and Adam Warlock in the second Guardians movie.
Guardians, exactly. And he's the integral part to the original Infinity Gauntlet and an Infinity War, the sequel to Infinity Gauntlet. Now, they derived most of Infinity War from Infinity, which with the Black Order and all that, which was like 2004-ish. But you know, obviously they were going off the vibes of Infinity Gauntlet and Infinity War.
I really like the Guardians movies, but the way they did Adam Warlock on that third one, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. And Dave Bautista wanted Drax to get killed. They should have just had him maybe kill him in the fucking first act. That would have made him a little more believable instead of walking around like a fucking retard for 3 quarters.
Oh, that was terrible what they did with Adam Warlock in that third one. It was just like, dude. Wow. Okay. Why don't you just have him wear a diaper while you're at it? I mean,
if there's one thing that I really, as much as I love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, like one thing that they really was a bad side effect of them is the fact that Marvel thought that they have to inject that Guardians humor into everything, especially even in movies where it doesn't work. Like we saw that in Thor Ragnarok. I hate Thor Ragnarok. I think it's one of the worst movies in the MCU. And one of the big reasons for it is because it's got Guardians of the Galaxy humor in what should be a very serious movie because we're dealing with the destruction of Asgard. Like, Thor is about to lose his father, his home, his hammer, and his eyeball. And yet he's like cracking jokes about like, this is what heroes do, buddy. And then he smacks like a ball on his head when it bounces off a window or something.
Well, and because people didn't make a big deal about Idris Elba, Heimdall, which Heimdall's supposed to actually be Sif's father, which go figure, right? But Idris Elba is, Jamie Alexander's father. But because of that, we lost Brunhild, which Brunhild was super popular. She was in Defenders comics in the 70s and shit, the Valkyrie, and we got fucking Tessa Thompson. So, I mean, that just destroyed everything. I will say for Ragnarok, Cate Blanchett as Hela, freaking great depiction. Although, you can make whatever arguments between her fights with Thor, but Hela is super powerful, especially in Walt Simonson's run. And then for Guardians 3, the High Evolutionary, he was just a fucking piece of shit, right? And that's the kind of villains you want to have. Like, every villain doesn't need to have his mommy did this, or his daddy, or he was, an orphan, or fucking, like, sometimes they can just be pieces of shit, and that's what the High Evolutionary was. And, I didn't mind his character. Again, they race swapped that character as well, but I felt like at least he was more ominous than like a lot of the MCU villains that we had been getting.
I wanted him to just have blackface on the whole time.
Yeah,
like if that would have been the reveal of that, he takes that mask off. I thought it was going to be great. Mike Zero's source: the ultimate troll move would be Trump appointing Mike Zero as the new White House press secretary.
Mike Zero,
wow,
very nice guy.
That's going to get memed.
Very intelligent.
Mike Zero's source for 5. I suspect if Sabine Wren was attacked with a rainbow lightsaber, there'd be a different outcome. Disney Star Wars is simply space AIDS. Maybe the rainbow lightsaber might be the most powerful one.
Mike Zero.
So I'm sure we'll get it at some point.
That reminds me, Tim, you might remember this, but you remember back during the prequels, Super Shadow, he was kind of like one of the first like scoopers. Like in the early internet days before YouTube, like he claimed that he had an inside source at Lucasfilm, and he would charge people just basically to peddle bullshit about, this is going to be the next prequel movie.
I do not
know.
I mean, I remember the name for sure. I remember the name, but I remember Nathan Butler doing that shit like on AOL, and he's not a bad guy, but he definitely pretended to have sources, and there was no YouTube then, but he would put them on boards just for attention, like, my insider says the title of episode 1 is going to be this, and it was totally wrong, but I do remember the name, nothing really specific about Super Shadow.
Okay, yeah, Mike Zero reminded me of him randomly.
I think the first time I ever saw Mike Zero's channel was when he made like some clickbait rumor video about The Last Jedi, where he said that like Jaina Solo was going to appear and she was going to help Rey fight Kylo. Back when I still had hope that they were going to like bring more elements of Legends into canon and like fix some of the problems I had. But then it's just like the more I've watched of him, I'm just like, you're full of it, homie. You're just like throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks, and half this you say is complete bogus. You never cite any sources. You're just making shit up to stir up the pot. Plus, that music at the beginning of all your videos is extremely depressing, and I don't want to be depressed.
There was a guy named Wars too on the Marvel side. He was the Marvel equivalent, and he's worse than even Emergency Dumbass and fucking whatever. I can't remember the other name, but they both drop the same spoilers within 5 minutes of each other every time.
But
Wars
was kind of like Doomcock and Cameron Pasha. Oh no, I can't believe you said the same thing that I did at the same time, guys. Wow.
Yeah,
Ryan's favorite Doomcock.
That's the thing when you're in the fucking, when you're the one who's like reporting these things and you're, oh, my source tell me this. There's a fucking Mario. There's a way that these people do it. There's a way that they just completely forget about all the stuff that's been wrong that they have reported and only focus on the things that have been right. And there's also ways you can go about it. And anybody, if they thought hard enough, could throw something out there that, oh, I guess that could be a possibility. Like when the Rachel Zegler stuff started popping up, right? When that was, and I'm hearing background noise from somebody. I don't know if
somebody needs to mute.
I think it's Ghostface.
But like when, Rachel Zegler gets involved in a massive wave of backlash, and the next day you have a couple of these scoopers that put out, oh, it looks like Marvel might be looking at Rachel Zegler for a role in the MCU. Well, it's like, one, that's going to get clicks because Rachel Zegler's in the news. If by some chance it happened, they'd be like, look at what I fucking told you. But in the much more likely chance that it never happens and anyone brings it up, they're like, oh, well, there was so much backlash to her as Snow White, they decided not to go in that direction. So it's literally, you could never show that that's bullshit. Right?
Yeah, or
they're like that. So.
The Rey movie got pushed back, so now that's not going to happen. No, you fucking idiots. About a week ago, they said they fucking got rid of the writer. You think they're going to, write the script in a fucking week and keep everything on schedule? Like, it's common sense, dude. And that's why my video I made on it was, you're smoking High Republic if you think they're getting rid of the Rey movie, because that's like Kathleen Kennedy's baby and shit. She's not going to fucking just get rid of Rey, dude. You're fucking on one. They're gonna release her in some way possible, and because of all the Skeleton Crew and Andor fans and everybody that go watch Mando and Grogu, they're gonna think that they're headed in the right direction and that they should make the Rey movie.
I just hope they make Sydney Sweeney Black Cat. I would love to see her in black leather.
Corn Pop. All right, hold on. Corn Pop says, "Say Mr. Pop, Ryan." I said, Mr. Pop. Stop fucking spamming the chat like a goddamn retard, or I'm gonna fucking ban your ass. I don't care if you give me a $2 super chat. Like, it's fucking annoying at this point. So just
no
calm down a little bit.
Please.
Stop spamming the chat. It's one thing if there's 2,000 people watching. It's another thing when there's 300 people watching. So you need to calm down. All right, I'm gonna put you in timeout, Corn Pop, and maybe you can come back later. We'll see.
Somebody's in trouble.
Ryan,
you sent him to the world between worlds.
Corn Pop is a bad dude.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I give no fucks, but when nobody else can talk or anything, that's the problem. So,
I just gotta say, there's, a franchise is dying when it's introduced one of two things: time travel or Muppet Babies. Both Star Wars and Marvel have introduced both.
Muppet Babies.
Baby Yoda.
I thought you meant the actual Muppet. Like, there was some storyline where they actually had Muppet Babies.
I meant like baby versions of established characters. That's the reason why I hate Baby Yoda so much. Oh yeah, I hear you. But Tim, I know you gotta get out of here.
Yeah, and then my fucking neighbors started up their 4-wheeler so they can drive 20 feet. Freaking idiots. So it'll get loud anyway, but thanks, guys. Yeah. Thanks, guys. It was fun. Nice little break. I'm going to get back to work. You guys have a great rest of the weekend, and make sure that you tune in to Ryan later. I'll see you guys. Bye.
Godspeed.
See you, man.
Night, Tim.
There you go. Check out Tim, United Spacers Alliance.
And also check out his new show, Star Triggered.
There you go.
That was a really fun show.
Go check it out. All right, Maximus BT for 199. Are you retarded? Thank you, Maximus BT. We appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know. I think when it comes to the Rey movie, I kind of talked about that when the whole thing got announced. The God, who just got announced for a trilogy? Do you guys remember that?
Simon Kinberg.
Simon Kinberg.
Yeah.
Ryan, I gotta ask you,
the guy who
are we
X-Men.
really gonna see a Rey movie, man?
I 100% think that we are going to see a movie featuring Rey with her as one of the leads.
Why?
Even if it's her passing it on to somebody, they can't just abandon the story completely. They're not going to.
Come on, Oracle. This is the same studio that gave us the Marvels.
But you got to remember that Sharmino Obaid-Chinoy is the director attached to this thing. You had somebody writing that's not writing anymore. I wouldn't be shocked if I wouldn't be shocked if Sharmino Obaid-Chinoy directs the first installment of Simon Kinberg's trilogy, right? Because Simon Kinberg is just the writer for that. So I would not be surprised if they match some of these elements of things together that they've announced, right? They fucking hire somebody that says they're writing a fucking trilogy. They don't have a writer attached to the Rey movie. I would not be surprised at all if that's what happens.
And like Favreau with Iron Man, Kinberg is not a fucking writer, right? He had his name. I mean, shit, he's not good at anything. But if you look at the stuff he wrote, it's
attached
trash.
to a couple things like
he ruined Fox's
those
X-Men
are credited
series.
though. They were actual scripts. Like Days of Future Past, he's credited as the writer, but he's not the writer because that's the old script from Matthew Vaughn and the girl that did First Class with Matthew Vaughn. So he actually takes. I remember specifically because I broke down and I pulled up all of his projects and shit. He gets credited for that, but the original script was Matthew Vaughn and I can't remember the girl's name, but
and there's a couple things. Maybe it was Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah, it's maybe something irrelevant like that. But I mean, like,
exactly. That's like
okay, Dark Phoenix, The Last Stand, Apocalypse. Like he did all the fucking worst fucking movies, dude.
Right.
And he got credited for Days of Future Past, but
just to say that a couple things I do like. I think he was the writer on the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movie. Which I enjoyed. I liked it. A little bit different take on the character Sherlock Holmes, but I liked it. So there's a couple things you go look back, you're like, okay. But then you start to look at all the things that he was part of that were absolute dog shit. And it's like, this is a lot. A lot of bad things, specifically associated with Marvel.
It's kind of like when people went all nuts over the Trevorrow script. If you look at Trevorrow's movies, the ones he wrote, they're all shit. Most of them, like I'd say,
or if you listen to the ideas for his script, it sounds fucking awful.
Yeah, like Tor, Valum, whatever. It destroys. Hey, instead of destroying this lore, we're gonna fuck all the old Republican Sith lore up instead. Like that's not like the way to do it.
Yeah, and for all of those who think like the Colin Trevorrow episode 9 would have been better than what we got. I mean, I just want to point out that this is the same Colin Trevorrow who gave us Jurassic World, and I freaking hate those movies. Like Fallen Kingdom is one of the most retarded freaking movies I've ever seen. Like seriously, there is a genetically engineered Velociraptor hybrid that they control with a laser pointer.
A certain YouTuber's been pushing this Stuart Beatty guy that got fired because he would have done a better Kenobi and blah 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 blah. Well, we also went and looked at all of Stuart Beatty's projects, and he's not much of a fucking writer either. I will give him some credit. There are a couple decent ones that he did, but let's G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra didn't make G.I. Joe this big ass franchise that everybody watched.
Jeremy's favorite movie.
I was gonna say you're gonna get sensitive talking about Cobra Commander's favorite movie there, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, I don't know anything about what Stuart Beatty's plans for the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie or whatever would have been. Here's what I do know. Most of the stories that you can tell in that era probably not going to be all that interesting. Because in no way should you ever have Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi coming together to fight ever. Obi-Wan Kenobi needs to remain on Tatooine essentially for the entire fucking time. He needs to remain in hiding. He has to do all these things, right? So the best type of story you're going to get from that is an Obi-Wan centered one on Tatooine, very similar to the John Jackson Miller book.
Exactly.
like that's all you have.
And that was a great story.
And that's a great story that is not bigger than it needs to be. It's simply about Obi-Wan coming to terms with some of his, the guilt and the failures and things like that. But he's not gallivanting across the galaxy to do it. He's certain as shit not fighting Darth Vader or anything like that.
He doesn't. He tries to commune with Qui-Gon. He can't, because that doesn't happen until Dark Lord Rise of Darth Vader at the end. And they kept continuity on all that stuff. But yeah, no. Well, Stuart Beattie did create Reva, so they kept that idea. That was great. And it was supposed to be a trilogy, a Kenobi trilogy. And they also had Luke Skywalker on Mustafar with a fucking red lightsaber. So now I believe some say it's in a vision or whatever. I don't give a fuck. That's not good story when it comes to Luke, Obi-Wan, and the story you're trying to tell. I don't care what the context.
Well, look, I could see that working if Obi-Wan, while watching Luke grow up, like has a bad dream.
Yeah.
About potentially
Perhaps.
like because he fucked up with Anakin and like what happened to Anakin about the same thing happening to Luke. I could see
but that
something
script's
like that.
exactly for jangling keys, right? Oh my god! And Luke Skywalker's got a red lightsaber. Like that would have been cut as a promo on a trailer to get the fucking mind people to go watch
Anakin with the red lightsaber. It's red.
I mean, you could make it cool if you have it as like a Force vision or something like that. I mean, you could actually make it canon accurate.
We're talking about Disney, though. Like, what if they made cool out of anything in Star Wars?
Not much. About the coolest thing I think they ever did was having Vader just kick the shit out of people in Rogue One. That was but
unfortunately, unfortunately for that, it is if you step aside and you just like come down from a galaxy where you've never seen anything else and you watch this, you're like, that's pretty fucking cool. Like, it's badass. That's scary. But the problem is 30 minutes later, he's going to be in a fight with Obi-Wan, right? Where he doesn't look like he's moving that way. And also it's cool to watch him fucking beat guys like fucking ceiling floor. Instead of just grabbing the motherfucker with the plans and yanking him your way. Or, you know what I mean? It was a cool sequence, but it was a stupid sequence in the grand scheme of things.
Well, that's the thing. What people Disney left the Star Wars in a nutshell is just like clips for Twitter. It's something that they can post there and in complete isolation go, oh my god, this is peak fire Star Wars, whatever. But as soon as you start adding like the context to it and how it fits into everything, it makes no freaking sense.
Well, if you ask people what they remember about Rogue One, that's like the only fucking scene they remember too, right?
Look, he Vadered.
And they couldn't even be like Jin Urso, Jan Ors. I mean, fuck, they couldn't even switch the name up too much, right? It's like ridiculous.
And also, I just got to mention that Cassian Andor, his name is also a name that appears in Star Trek. There's a planet in the Federation that's called Andor. Like Worf even recommends that he and his wife have their honeymoon on Andor. So anytime I hear his name, I just think of that. What was that? I just heard
I think it was somebody just unmuted accidentally for a second. Mike Zero's source, the new Rey movie, is Disney's answer to Twilight. I wouldn't be half surprised if the Sith sparkle.
That might make Shadiversity like it.
Can you imagine sparkling Siths with rainbow lightsabers coming out, just being like, "Oh my god! Oh
my god!"
No.
Don't give them ideas.
Corn Pop says, "Ryan, I'm chilling." All right, thank you, Corn Pop, for chilling. I appreciate it,
dude.
But we've been going for like an hour and 40 minutes or so. God, we've just been talking about random shit, honestly, which has been great.
The title of the stream was "Hollywood is Burning," which it literally is right now.
I guess we didn't really talk about the fires, but we did talk about a lot of random current Hollywood shit like Marvel and Star Wars.
As I hate you, I do kind of feel bad that your house burnt down just a little bit.
I even said earlier in the stream, I actually gave prayers for that fool, man. As retarded as he is, dude, I gotta feel bad for him.
But is that true? Is that one of his house got burned down in that fire there in LA?
And just for the record, I'm originally from Southern California. I live in North Texas now, but Like, honestly, there's lots of good people in California, man. If you take out like the voting population of Los Angeles and San Tran, Frisco, like the state's mostly red, dude. I mean, for the most part, there's lots of pockets of like normal fucking people there. So not everyone can just up and move like I did and stuff. And, people have family and ties and stuff like that. So yeah. And it's just weird because I hear people
and even if people did vote for a retarded mayor, I don't think that necessarily necessitates your house being burned down and your life being destroyed. And maybe
exactly, yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying, because I'm seeing people like react like libs on fucking Twitter and everywhere, like, "Oh God, I hope it falls into the ocean" and bullshit like that. It's like, fuck.
Well, that's just like the shit they were giving James Woods, man. He came on all emotional, and they're just like, "Oh, we're happy your shit."
I know. I just remember when Texas got hit, or when Oklahoma gets hit, or somebody gets hit with a tornado, and you have the commie weirdos fucking like, "Oh, good, they deserve it. Where's their God now?" and all this bullshit. So I don't think it's smart to fucking do the same thing.
Yeah, I have empathy for anybody that's gone through this shit right now. Even though I think that politically speaking, there's a lot to talk about what's been going on, what's been happening, about letting environmental activists control everything, about lack of prevention of this shit, about letting homeless people run wild, about the water supply. I think there's a lot of stuff to talk about and blame to go around for the people involved. However, when it just comes down to it, it sucks to see people that are literally running for their lives as their entire world burns around them. That shit sucks.
Especially when a lot of it may have to do with the fucking government. So yeah, it's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, blaming people for like their houses burning down because they voted a certain way. Doing that makes us no better than, as I said earlier in the stream, when Marina Sirtis said that, like, when all those people who were dying in the Texas blizzard back in 2020, and she said, "This is what you voted for, Republicans." Like, we shouldn't do that. Like,
Marina Sirtis happened to live in California by any chance?
I don't know.
Just saying.
But even
it's funny how people like that always continuously say really hurtful, harmful, shameful things onto people, but then when it comes in the end reversed upon them, "Oh, well, you need to feel sorry for me." I do. Why?
Yeah,
I do generally, but I mean, it's just like when you actually ask a bunch of people that you've literally insulted, mocked, shamed, and then told, wish bad things on them. Now it's happening to you. It almost gives the equal an opportunity to be hateful, and probably say 90% of the time, at least on our side, you don't see that. You see the reverse. We're actually saying prayers for Mark Hamill. We're actually wishing him well. We're actually, not looking at this guy going, "Yeah, you're an idiot and you're a bit of a cuck, but, we still feel sorry for you." If the roles were reversed, this guy would be walking around literally giving us the Joker laugh.
And thoughts and prayers to Cameron Posh and his mom, because I know he was living with his mom when the fire happened and stuff too. So we want to make sure that they're all right as well.
Sparrow.
Haven't heard anything about that dude in a long time. But if that's true, then sure. But that's going to do it for us, guys. We're going to let everybody say where they're at and where you can find them. Biggles has been graciously putting people's links in chats. And then I'm going to be getting ready to go live here in the next hour and a half, maybe 2 hours-ish, something like that. But thank you guys once again for joining me here. I appreciate it. I'm sorry that we had to delay it. I wasn't able to do it last week, but thank you guys for showing up today. Good stream.
Yeah, what the fuck were you thinking, puking your guts up? Jesus.
It sucked.
I know.
I was thinking that I could power through, and I couldn't, unfortunately. But
it wasn't COVID that you caught last week, was it?
No, I was like barfing sick.
You see, Ryan showing your enemies your weakness. So come on, man.
Yeah. What am I supposed to do? If I could have gone, I would have gone all 3 streams, but I just couldn't. Darth Ghostface, do you have anything going on or anywhere people can check you out?
Well, I'm only on here on YouTube, but I'm also on Rumble, but I haven't uploaded any content on either of those though, so I don't have any social media. But what's going on? Oh, not much. So the only thing I'm just excited for is we just got 8 more days left until the Biden-Harris administration comes to the end, and hopefully things start to get better now. You start seeing inflation going down, no more high gas prices, no more high prices for food, no more rent starts to go down. hopefully I'll be able to sometime before the end of this year move out of the apartment that I'm sharing with my friend and get my own.
Hell yeah, man. Good things ahead. Good things ahead in 2025. Thank you for coming on, Darth Ghostface. Oracle of Doom 222. What do you got going on, man?
I am just your noble lurker that actually makes an appearance every once in a blue moon to say hello and share his thoughts. And yeah.
Well, hey, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate it. Thank you. Grandmaster Chris, what about yourself?
Not much aside from I'm trying to make a video about Heir to the Empire, trying to get myself into getting more people into the EU, just like Purist is doing right there. But aside from that, I've got nothing. Just you can follow me on Twitter. And aside from that, hope all you guys are safe. If you're living on the West Coast, stay safe. If you're staying on the East Coast, also be safe, because here in Tennessee, we just got a bad snowstorm and all the roads are like slippery, and I almost slid off the road.
Hey, you guys aren't ready for that shit like that there, huh?
Yeah, because the one day of the year the South actually decides to have snow.
Yeah, I saw in some places like eight inches of snow in Tennessee just overnight. So we'll stay safe over there too. Thanks for coming on. Sir Reefer, what you got going on, man?
Nothing. I'm just hanging out. So don't pirate from Indies.
Don't pirate from Indies. And the opposite of that would be probably true as well.
Yeah.
Pirate from everywhere else. That would be your
advice.
Sail the high seas.
Don't give these people money.
There you go.
Yeah,
shout out to Sir Reefer. Gabriel Knight, what do you got going on, man?
Not a whole lot, just here to hang out, but I would like to give a shout out to what Chris mentioned earlier. The Star Triggered was on Friday, and Justin can probably tell you more about the regular schedule, but it was a great first show, and they ripped into a lot of the Disney shills. So if you was annoyed about those people as I am, I'd highly recommend jumping on that stream and watch them mock those idiots.
There you go.
Yeah, that Star Trigger show was a blast.
And sub to Mr. Grizzy. His videos where he his compilations of all the shills and the reactions it's so funny. Especially the one where all the shills start clapping and it cuts the scene from Family Guy. If you're happy and clap your hands, dumb cunt.
Well, speaking of Star Wars Marvel purists, what do you got going on, man?
We got lots of stuff. I mean, we just got full monetization. I thanked you on Twitter as well as a lot of other people that have been helping promoting the channel. So yeah, all the hard work kind of paid off, and now we're just gonna have fun. We're unlocking gaming streams. I did a poll earlier with the audience, a couple of weeks ago. We're gonna start with Punisher 2005 and just brutalize fucking people as we go around, seeking vengeance, as Frank Castle. And then I have pure unadulterated Star Wars episode, 9 now? We're doing Dark Tide Onslaught, book 2 of the New Jedi Order, January 23rd at 9:15. I'm going to have Matt Wilkins and United Spacers Alliance that was here earlier on. It's probably going to take, we're shooting for 3 streams, but it may take 4 to do the whole duology. So we're doing that. And then I have 2 pure unadulterated Marvels set up. One is going to be Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange, Triumph and Torment by Roger Stern. That's probably going to be the last Saturday of the month. What is that? I have somebody who's ready to come on and do it on the 25th, but that's 2 days after the other one. So it'll more than likely be February 1st. And then I'm doing Uncanny X-Force Rick Remender Run Part 2 with Liquid Blake, I believe, on the 27th of January. So, yeah, I mean, besides that, I have my Star Wars Normie Episode 1's reached 1,400 views. I have the first 4 episodes already done on that, kind of mapped out. It could be a really long series. And then we're also doing George Lucas and the EU, a lot of misconceptions that people like to try to run out there. That's over 2,000 views now, and that's going to be a 4-part series. I'm going to be covering part 3 on my live stream on Monday. And I try to live stream every Monday at 8 p.m. Central. Usually it runs over to about 9, but I usually stream for about 3 or 4 hours. But yeah, real life work. generally kind of pushes my streams back a little bit. Star Trigger, we're going to do once a month. It's going to alternate from Mr. Grizzy and Darth Melvin, Knights of Melvin channel. So you want to subscribe to Knights of Melvin for the next stream. Once we get the Gatekeepers Alliance channel up to 1,000 subs, then everything will start coming directly off of that channel. So yeah, that one should be like mid-February as well. So I'll keep it posted in my community tab.
Oh, and Purist, one thing I also wanted to give a shout out to is HoloNet's NJO documentary.
Oh yeah, the HoloNet NJO documentary. I have that linked all throughout my community tab. So if you guys want to go to it, it's like the history of the New Jedi Order. He's done 2 episodes now. And yeah, it's got old footage and clips from people, and then it has new interview. Like he had interviewed James Lucino recently, so there's a lot of new footage on that as well. It's very interesting for anybody familiar with the NJO. If you're just getting into it, and you don't want spoilers and stuff, then you probably want to wait until after you're caught up. And thanks for having me on, Ryan, as always.
Hell yeah, man! Go check out his channel. Congrats on the monetization. And somebody else who at least is in review right now for monetization, Biggles. What do you got going on, man?
Yeah, so I am at step 3, getting reviewed for partial monetization. I was like 40 watch hours away, and then I lost like 200, and then YouTube removed like 30 watch hours from the last 2 days before that, and I went on a rant on Twitter that I was like, I feel like I'm never going to get monetization because I was just 40 watch hours away, and now I'm like 200 away. And then Jay saw it and told it to like 400 people watching his show, and then they all went in and got me to reviewing for monetization. So if I get it by tomorrow, my normal show is going to be kind of like a celebration thing, which is at like 8 p.m. Eastern. If not, I'm just going to be talking about all the anime that came out this season. And there's a lot of bad ones, including one where the girl wants to bang her cat. So, yeah. So,
what?
Yeah, dude, it's really bad. It's not watchable. So don't watch it.
And speaking of which,
we have you to review those for us, Biggles.
No, I'm not. I gave up on it. I'm not watching it anymore. Maybe if one of my co-hosts watches it, they can review it. But we all gave up after episode 2.
And speaking of cats, everyone on the Geeks and Gamers locals, you better unsubscribe right now and save Ryan from having to go to that furry convention.
Listen, we got a long time before I have to worry about that. A long time. We're not even close to that goal. So, but yeah, when it does come close, I'll tell you guys when to unsub. SWA becomes a member over here and also gives 5 memberships. Thank you, SWA. Appreciate that. Go check out all these guys. Go check out Biggles. Make sure to give him some views to make sure that doesn't sink back down too. Because it can. It's because it goes by year, right? So if it's been a year since you got this, then it will lower them and all that bullshit. So I'm glad you're over the hump, Biggles. Let's hope that monetization goes through quick. Have your celebration stream. But that's it over here. Thank you to all these guys for joining us. I will be live at 5:30 or 6 Eastern over on my channel to do my normal stream. And so I'll see a lot of you guys over there. And we will do this. I tell you what, we will do this. It's only going to be a couple weeks because we were too close. We're going to do it on February 2nd. I think February 2nd works. So we're going to do this on February 2nd, and I'll see y'all.
We're going to do it on Groundhog Day.
If that's Groundhog Day, sure. But yeah, February 2nd is when we'll be back. Thank you guys so much. We'll talk to all of y'all later. Bye.
Hail Arcanation.
Later.
See you later.